Good evening, everyone. How are all of you? Here's wishing all of you a very, very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. Our guest today is Annu Kalra, who is a communications consultant and also author of the book Avirbhav. She is already here, so I'll just add her.
Hello.
Hi Annu, how are you?
I'm good. Let me just adjust this because I think uh, one cannot figure out in advance how it's going to be. The screen is shared between two people, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Is this okay now?
This is good.
Okay, I think we are all right.
This is good.
Okay.
Here's wishing you also a very happy Ganesh Chaturthi.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to start by asking you, you're a communications consultant.
Yeah.
And you've also authored the book Avirbhav.
Yeah.
Now, my first question to you is this. So my first question to you is, what is applied spirituality? As a phrase, this is not a common phrase. In fact, I'm hearing it for the first time. So I want to know, what is applied spirituality and what led you to personally explore spirituality?
Okay. So we shall apply this right now and I shall explain. Today is Ganesh Chaturthi, so I am going to do a shloka for Lord Ganesh.
Okay.
Okay. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Dev Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah. So here I have applied my spiritual understanding to a real life event. Ganesha is the Lord of beginnings. And we are beginning something right now. We're beginning a session right now. We are beginning an exploration right now. So my understanding of spirituality includes mantras, includes some kind of deity worship sometimes, meditation, vichar, so whatever my understanding is, when I bring that into my real life situations, to me that is applying spirituality. So if I sit down to, let's say, work on a new presentation, and if it's a beginning that I'm doing, then I inwardly invoke Lord Ganesha. His grace upon the project that one is endeavoring into, and that is applying spirituality. And if I'm in a different situation where the particular situation calls for a calming of the nerves, and I don't need to pop a pill, I go into my breath awareness, I go into my chakra awareness, and I calm myself. So I'm applying that spirituality to day-to-day life. It is not about just being limited to sitting for meditation for 1 hour or half an hour or doing an anushthan for half an hour in a day, but the entire day is lived with the awareness of the essence of ourselves as we know it at that point of time. Because that also keeps changing, right? Our own self-perception is constantly altering. So one cannot have a fixed view about it. As the exploration changes and our understanding changes, applying that. So that's applied spirituality.
Wonderful. That's really nice.
And I conduct workshops on that basically and share my understanding, and people, when they resonate with whatever aspect they resonate in, how they can bring that into their own lives and therefore have more meaningful, more calm, more peaceful lives. That's the agenda.
So are you basically integrating spirituality, what you know and understand spirituality to be, into your day-to-day life? That's my understanding.
Honestly, it was meant to be that way. Honestly, it was meant to be that way. It wasn't meant to be. We weren't supposed to have a separate material life and a separate spiritual life. It was life. And the spiritual understanding of it has made our ancient wise seers give us various practices, various approaches, whether it is Vedanta, whether it is Tantra, whether it is yoga, whether it is any kind of murti puja. All of this was an understanding of the fact that life, there is just life. It is not spiritual life or
it's not
material life. It is life.
Aspects and
Yeah.
parts. It's one whole.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that is why we have so much in our rich Indian culture, which if we can actually incorporate it into our lives become more meaningful.
Now tell us about
book,
Avirbhav.
Okay, let me share this. Here is an image of it. Avirbhav.
This is your sketch from what I've heard.
Yeah, these are all my paintings. They're not sketches. They're large size paintings. I think the smallest is 2 feet by 2 feet and the largest is 5 feet by 6 feet.
Okay.
So, so these paintings, images have been taken and it's been converted into a pack of cards. Let me show you the cards. It's a pack of cards that comes along with the book. So I can share how this happened. I used to kind of dabble a little bit with tarot, and tarot, as you know, is based on Kabbalah. And so it has a major arcana and minor arcana, and then you have different kind of tarot decks. So there is one on Greek gods and there's one on angels. And I said, what is this? We have so many gods in our rich culture here. So why don't we have some cards with Indian gods and goddesses? So I first thought, let me make Indian gods and goddesses cards based on tarot. Then I said, why should I base it on a different system? We have so many beautiful, flawless systems in our own culture. So I based it on Vedanta. So these are guidance cards with images of various deities, and which are in 4 suits of Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha, which are the 4 Purusharthas of Vedanta. And I also created, but one of the things that I used to have a little bit of a problem with was this aspect of soothsaying, of predicting the future. It's not so much about predicting the future as about understanding one's current state. And when one has clarity on that, one can take the right kind of steps. And while our Vedic astrology, it has a lot of concept of upchar, that if this is happening, what can you do? I wanted to bring that richness into these cards, guidance cards as well. So I created meditation cards as well. So this book has 48 guidance cards and 7 meditation cards, and it has a chapter on understanding meditation and various meditations. And at the end of each card, description and whatever, if you resonate with it, there are some recommendations given, which could include something from astrology, something from, some form of charity, some form of mantra jap, some form of yogasana or a pranayam, which can support you to get tide over the situation that you find yourself in. So I've tried to make it like a holistic thing, because Sanatan Dharma is actually a very holistic approach. You can't really segregate. So there are, all these sciences are interrelated. There's astrology, and then there is Ayurveda, and there is astronomy. Everything kind of all coalesces into one integrated way of life. True. So I've tried to do something like that too.
Wonderful. I'm going to get my hands on your book, Annu. I'm going to do that. But now let's talk about Ganesh Chaturthi, because it's a very auspicious day today. I want to start by asking you that, Ganesh Chaturthi is one of the most celebrated festivals, Indian festivals. And is it symbolically seen as Ganeshji's arrival on earth, and therefore upon immersion on the 11th day, his return to his abode, which is Mount Kailash? Is it symbolically seen as such?
So we need to actually step back a little and understanding the entire concept of deities in our system, right? So in the Ramcharitmanas, Goswami Tulsidas is describing that when Lord Shiva and Parvati are getting married, they pray to Lord Ganapati.
Hmm.
Now, this kind of comes as a surprise, right? We
Yes.
thought Lord Ganpati is the son of Shiva and Parvati. So how are they praying to somebody even before they've gotten married, right? So the point is that there is this energy in the universe, which is the energy of Gana means collection and Isha means the Lord. The Lord of the collective, the Lord of the beings, right? So Lord Shiva and Lord and Goddess Parvati, when they're getting married, they actually pray to him, and Mata Parvati expresses the desire that please manifest as my child.
Okay.
And that is how Lord Ganesha is born to Lord Goddess Parvati. So there are multiple descriptions and interpretations of how he was born. There is one part of the story which says she looked at Lord Shiva and she felt this great love, and out of that love, Ganpati manifested. There is one which says she had uptan on herself and she collected that uptan and formed a being out of it, and then she she put pran into it and it became Lord Ganesha. So these are stories to make us understand a concept that the energies that we know of, they are eternal. And to say कि जन्म लिया था, जन्म नहीं, अवतरण हुआ था. So he manifested, which is why I called my book also Avirbhav. He manifested as the child of Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati. That is the beauty of Ganesha. It can be seen in various ways. And the moment you understand this aspect of the story, you realize the cyclicity of life, that somebody was there from before even you manifested and got married, and then that person being came as your child, and then you become, in the hierarchy of God, you become the more senior person because you are the parents now. Right? So what had happened was, many years back, there was at one point of time, the Vedic culture was going very strong, but because of the kind of history that India had, a lot of rituals, a lot of anushthan, a lot of understanding kind of fell by the wayside. So Chhatrapati Shivaji, he kind of rekindled this interest in Ganesha. And then years later, Lokmanya Tilak actually brought it back. Yeah, he brought it back into, so he brought back this pride of association with the Indian culture. And that he brought back through Ganesha, because he's one of the really, really rich deities, rich manifestations that we have in our culture. Each and every manifestation has a purpose, has a way of life associated with it, has an understanding associated with it. And Lord Ganesha actually straddles a whole bandwidth of expressions that one could go through in life, and therefore he becomes so very important. But I think the most important thing is that he is not just about an individual relationship with the gods and deities. He is about a collective consciousness relationship, and that is why his so-called Renaissance, created that environment in the entire country. Because Gana is a collective. So even now, if you see, if you stay in a condo, the entire condo will be having a Ganesh Puja together, and the entire society comes together to celebrate it. And if somebody does bring a Ganesh Ji home, the entire neighborhood gets involved. They get invited, they go and have meals there. So this social, taking the fabric from the family to social and a collective, that is where Ganesh Ji becomes very important.
Okay.
So that is why that is why the resurgence of the interest in this deity happened at a time when the collective needed to come together and take pride in their culture, which is continuing even now, if you see.
True. But if I were to still come back to the question and ask you, what is the significance of bringing an idol home, praying to the idol, worship? It could be lesser than 11 days, but usually on the 11th day, Ganesh Ji's idol is immersed in water. Now, while I understand that deities are energies, at the end of the day, you are praying to an energy, because you,
Yeah.
me, everything in this entire cosmos is an energy, whether
Yeah.
subtle or gross. When we talk about deities, they're very subtle energies. But for those who believe in the idol worship and bring the idol home, what is the significance?
So the significance is all of religion, actually, all of spirituality is to understand ourselves in the process. It is to unfold a deeper understanding of ourselves through following these rituals. So when you bring them home, so what happens is this is the period when the Ganesha energies in the universe are strongest, because there is an understanding that most deities belong to planets which are, energies of planets which are hitherto probably even undiscovered. So Kali Yuga has the energies that are closest to the planet Earth are Ganesha energies and Kali energies. So within this period of Ganesha, that energy is even closer. So it's like if you're, if somebody you really admire, okay, Amitabh Bachchan is coming into your city, for example. So people will put up posters of Amitabh Bachchan around their house because they want to celebrate him. I mean, you would have seen, no, when the beauty queens come back, all the children gather and hold banners, right? It's celebrating that person's coming. So the Ganesha energies have come closer to earth, and bringing a statue of him home is actually a form of celebration and of understanding that this energy is closer to us right now, and we can relate and engage with this energy in many more meaningful ways than we could have otherwise. So if our ideal,
most accessible during that period,
yes, during that period. And also it is a very deeper meaning related to the entire story of Ganesha and the story of the iconography of each and every aspect of him, which becomes more and more important. I mean, Ganesha is the god with the elephant head. If you look at elephants, right, what is it? They are the beings that have literally created forests. They don't just live off the forests, they create forests. Because they're wandering and they carry, and because of the dropping, seeds have gone to various places, and therefore the forest has grown. And in the natural environment, there was recently a video of a cheetah sitting and watching an elephant. There is an elephant eating from a tree, and there's a cheetah close by. He's just sitting and observing it. That is the beauty of an elephant. A wild animal also does not charge at him without cause, because they are so at peace with themselves. So when you bring something like that at home, and an understanding that something is, an understanding of wildlife, an understanding of the traits that energy is all about, we start imbibing those in our own life. A child comes and asks you, says, why does this god have such large ears? And then you say, so that you can listen, so that I can listen well. And a child in a very young age is taught the importance of Shravan by a parent, because there was a Ganesha in the house and the child asked that question. Right? So the large head of Ganesha. And why does he have such a large head? So that you can think well, you can do manan. Right? So the child has learned Shravan and Manan from the family because the Ganesha is at home. Of course, there's a lot of celebration. So instead of doing a moral values class where a child is getting bored and yawning away and waiting when he can run out, in the process of having a festive environment at home, important life values are being taught. And for Vedanta, that is the most important thing. Vedanta begins with Shravan and Manan. And through the idol of Ganesh ji, this is what we have taught the children in the household. Right? And you inviting people come, you offer prayers at a fixed time, because when you bring Ganesha home, there is an entire process. He's actually, it's not treated like an idol, it's treated like a person. And you have to offer prayers, you have to offer songs, and you have to offer food, and after all that, after you invest so heavily and you engage with it, there is a time for it to go.
To let go. Yes.
to let go. And that is what you're teaching from and learning and getting revised within yourself, that how much ever you may love, how much ever you may care, there would be a time when the physical body has to depart.
So that's the concept of detachment that comes in.
Yes. So it's detachment is kind of a not right word. We call it vairagya.
Vairagya.
Right? There is so in fact, even the trunk of an elephant, right, which is the head that Ganesh ji has. So, you know, every other implement that is available, which has been created, if a tool works on a large product, it can't work on a small product. But an elephant trunk is such that it can uproot a tree or it can lift a needle. That is the sense of discrimination that is possible by an elephant. And that is why our favorite God has that elephant head. And that is why he's teaching us that we need to learn the power of discrimination, which we call vivek, which is again back to Vedant. You're saying, Shravan karo, manan karo, vivek aana chahiye, vairagya hona chahiye. So all these values are getting cultivated in a very day-to-day manner, in a very happy, festive environment. You know, I know of somebody that who, as a young, he belonged to a very rich family, and as a young boy had learned to drive a car. And misfortunes happened, and for the most of his life, he could not afford a car after that, and he was on a scooter, and he used to drive very slowly. So as the family fortunes kind of moved again, and he was by then an older man, they finally bought a car in the household. And when he drove like crazy. The family was shocked. So where did this man come from? How can he drive like this? Because he had learned to drive like that as a young boy. And it was in his entire system, at the cellular level, that had percolated, that this is how you drive. He couldn't drive a scooter properly. He could never speed up in a scooter. But that joyousness about him, when he drove a car, it just came through. So learning something at a younger age is very, very, very good. And if we can learn, instead of having a moral value and social value class, but if we can learn instead in an environment of festivity in the household, imagine the kind of impression that happens on a child. So it's a great thing to bring home Ganesha. It's a lot of hard work, but then what isn't in life? Anything worth doing is not easy doing, right?
Yeah. Everything takes a lot of hard work and effort, but at the end of the day, I think it's very fulfilling.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when we talk about Ganeshji, we say that he's the god of new beginnings. He's also the remover of obstacles, and also the god of wisdom and intelligence. And behind each of these, there is a story. So I want you to please elucidate.
Absolutely. So before I share the story, let me just share with you how important beginning is. Aristotle said, no, well begun is half done. Right? So beginnings are that important. So what does it mean really? The fact that you have begun something means that you have integrated all your energies in order to commence a task. So whichever state of mind you may have been in earlier, now you are prepared to take the next step in life. And that's a huge thing. That's being in a mind space which is phenomenal. Which is why when somebody is feeling low, we tell them start something new, start something new. And somebody is very low, they find it very difficult to start something new. Because it takes immense courage from within to commence something new. So beginnings is very important. Before we go on to the story of why Lord Ganesha is the Lord of beginnings, this understanding is important, that beginning itself is a milestone. And it is a reflection of a person's inner state, mentally, emotionally, physically, at every level. Okay. So the story is as follows. There are multiple versions of almost all this. That's what they call kathas, right? There are multiple versions of the stories, and there are multiple levels of interpretations of the same as well. So the story is that some say it was a competition among the gods. Some say that the gods had brought a very special mango and given it to Lord Shiva and Parvati. And Lord Shiva and Parvati, in order to decide which child gets, because they both declined, both Kartikeya and Ganesh declined to share it. Very typical sibling behavior. Nahi, ye mere liye hai, mujhe main nahi dunga. Right? So they set forth a competition saying, whoever does pradakshina, what is it called? Chakkar lagana, basically, right? Of the world, 3 chakkars first, that is the person that individual shall get this. So Kartikeya ki savari is what? Peacock. He lands on his peacock and he flies off to take chakkar lagane ke liye.
Of the earth, I think. Huh?
So, yeah. So what's it called? We call it Girivalam, or we call Pradakshina, So Lord Ganesha, he has a mouse as his savari. That also there's a story to it. How can he possibly be competing with Kartikeya, who's going on off on a peacock? So the young boy tells both his parents to sit together. He first goes and lights a diya, then he makes them both sit together. He finishes, so he has this task of lighting a diya in the Kailash area every evening. So even though there is a competition and there is a reward involved, he first goes and does his task of lighting the diya, because that is his duty. That is the task that had been assigned to him. He goes and does that, and then he tells his parents to sit together, and वो उनके चक्कर लगा लेता है 3 बार, and फिर हाथ जोड़ देता है and कहता है मैंने लगा लिया दुनिया के चक्कर 3 बार. So now this can be interpreted at multiple levels, right? If you take the most basic kind of gross and a very crude kind of interpretation, which I have heard some people say sometimes, say, अरे भैया जो decision maker है उसको खुश रखो बस बाकी सब हो जाएगा.
अच्छा. Well, there is truth to that. I haven't heard it with this particular story, but yes, there is truth to that.
Right? So decision maker को खुश कर दिया, मैंने आपके चक्कर लगा लिया, you are my world. Now, from a perspective of respect for parents, somebody can say parents are the world to their children. So if the parents said, दुनिया के चक्कर लगाओ 3 बार, दुनिया के चक्कर लगा लिए, this, you are my world. I have taken 3 rounds around you. So this is another beautiful, and this is the most prevalent interpretation of this. And it is a good thing to teach the children that when they are young. Hopefully those parents will not end up in old age homes, because they have taught their children that the parents mean the world through a story of Ganesha. There is another very, very, very deep meaning, which is what is Shiva and what is Shakti. They are the essence of the universe. The universe is a manifestation of Shiva and Shakti. So actually, when Shiva Shakti are sitting together, और उनके चक्कर लगा लिए, तो दुनिया के चक्कर लगा लिए. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. Right? This is a very deep meaning. And this is what it means. And because of this deep understanding and insight that, see, we have to understand Lord Shiva and Parvati are not like mortal, regular beings like us. Somebody flattered us and we got very happy with that, right? So they are not going to give us something important, even if it's a reward, just because somebody pleased them. But look at the insight Ganesh exhibits through this process. And this is what Lord Shiva understands. And he says, you deserve to be the Pratham Pujya. Because when this understanding somebody who can have, that deity is so evolved, that deity has such a deep insight of life itself, that the support of such a deity will be a hugely empowering thing in the life of the person who has started a new task. So he becomes the Pratham Pujya. And that is why he's the Lord of beginnings. It is very profound.
And why is Ganeshji also known to be the remover of obstacles?
Because he has Vivek, right? He has the ability of discrimination. Because how are obstacles removed? If there is a rock that comes, should one use one's entire might and move it? Should one create a passage around it? That ability comes from where? That is the ability of discrimination, which is what Lord Ganesh symbolizes, right? That is, I just explained that his trunk has the ability to uproot a tree or even pick up a needle. So that is the ability that you need. There is a very beautiful prayer, the Serenity Prayer, which the Alcoholic Anonymous people use. It says, "Oh Lord, give me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." This is called the power of discrimination, and Lord Ganesha symbolizes that. So anybody who has this power of discrimination, जिसके अंदर ये विवेक आ गया, उसके जीवन में फिर विघ्न आएगी, विघ्न तो आएगी, पर वो ऑब्स्टिकल रिमूव हो पाएगा क्योंकि उसको समझ होगी कि कैसे रिमूव करना है उस ऑब्स्टिकल को.
I can just sit and keep listening to you, Anu. You know, it's honestly that's the feeling I'm getting. कि बस आप बोलते रहो, मैं यहाँ बैठकर सुनती रहती.
मुझे बहुत अच्छी लगती है ये बातें करना. मुझे सुनने में भी उतना ही अच्छा लगता है, खाली बोलने में नहीं. I love to listen to these stories as well.
But at least in this discussion, I'm going to be asking you the questions. What I also want to know is, कहा जाता है that Ganesh ji is also the bestower of material success as well as spiritual success. Or whenever we talk about spirituality, जो सबसे पहली साधना होती है, वो गणेश जी की ही होती है. Because you know, I think it is said that he is the gatekeeper of the spiritual world. So sort of connects both the worlds, the material as well as the spiritual. So tell us a little bit about this.
So look at it. Material and spiritual are not separate. That is something we have created. The Trinity, there is Lord Brahma, who is the creator, Lord Vishnu, who is the sustainer, and Lord Shiva, who is said is destroyer, but he's basically a transformer. Because because matter can neither be created nor it can be destroyed, right?
True.
So we can only change form. And as long as one is within the realm of matter, of manifestation, it is about getting more purified, becoming more subtle. In the ultimate gyan that is there is that everything is one, everything is the self. That is the ultimate understanding. That comes from Vedanta. But till one can reach that point, step by step to go towards it, we need to be with a deity. We need to call upon, what is the idea of calling upon a deity? It is about manifesting those virtues in our own life. And Ganesh ji has a beautiful balance. He balances sibling rivalry, he manages. He balances things between his parents. He balances things between Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. There are stories about that. So he's very nice. Somebody said, yes, Lord Ganesha is the sum total of Brahma. See, beautiful. So he is that. But he has also stepped into a manifested form where he is giving us the understanding of how manifest life should be lived. So there is Hari and Hara Gun in him. So therefore, actually, for example, we always say Lakshmi ji is about prosperity, but Lakshmi ji gyan bhi deti hain, but she is not most known for that. Lord Shankar के पास भी जाके आप कुछ material भी मांग सकते हैं. इनफैक्ट उनको भोलेनाथ बोलते हैं. उनसे तो जो मांगो वो दे देते हैं, राइट? वो इसलिए दे देते कि उनको पता है जब तक तुम्हारे अंदर प्रिपरेशन नहीं है ना उस चीज को हैंडल करने की, तुम खो दोगे. So most deities have the capacity to provide everything, right? But in the case of Lord Ganesha, the richness of the experiences which come down, which are handed down as kathas, is so vast that people will find resonance with some aspect or the other, because all of us are different people. Which means we have different thought processes, we have different our emotions work differently, our mental faculties work differently. So each of us needs to find where we resonate, right? And Lord Ganesha is the kind that most people will find resonance with some aspect or the other. I remember a few years back, one of the pandals in Bombay had Lord Ganesha wearing denim jeans.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is, as a community, they decided to make him wear denim jeans. And that's so beautiful. He does not get offended by it. So it's like when you have a favorite uncle in the family, वो maths भी पढ़ा देते हैं और आइसक्रीम खिलाने भी ले जाते हैं, मस्ती भी करा देते हैं. Right? Or some favorite bua who's like that, who will be stern when needed and who will be very indulgent at another point of time. So those become our favorites, no? So he's like that. It doesn't mean that there are other people who can't give both, but he's like that. So therefore, he's able to. Most of us, when we say we want, and almost all of us want both, right?
True.
We don't want, of course we want, some of us want to experience what moksha is all about, but we are all here for experiencing, and we shall go through these, and there will be these desires we shall have. So we want somebody who understands this. Okay? Just because I want this does not mean that I'm not interested in this. Not everybody is a sadhu. People have a combination of desires. They want to evolve, but they want to go through it in a particular way. And Lord Ganesha is the kind of energy which facilitates that.
Sum total.
Sum total.
Swami Dhansuman ji is saying that Lord Ganesha embodies the path of Buddhatva.
Buddhatva, self-actualization. Yeah. He's the self. That is why I explained the story before I started about Lord Shiva and Devi Parvati actually praying to him. So moksha, yes. So I just addressed. So yes, Swami Dhyan Sumanji, that's true. He does symbolize moksha, but that moksha is meaningful for a mumuksh. For somebody else, he might just want moksha from poverty. He might just want liberation from hunger, and he can go and pray to Lord Ganesha and incorporate his qualities and actually improve on his material life too.
True. The reason why I actually wanted to have this discussion with you, Annu, is, and especially because it's Ganesh Chaturthi, so I thought it would make for a very relevant topic, which we then decided would be Ganesha stories, because it's Ganesh Chaturthi. But the reason why I was really interested in having this discussion with you is because, and the reason also why I use the phrase material as well as spiritual, for someone like me, and I know of course for someone like you, there isn't a distance between the two. They combine because that's your mindset, and that is your desire to amalgamate both of them together and keep them as a whole. For a large part of the population, that is not the case, which is why I thought it would be very interesting to try and understand. There are a lot of people who on a day-to-day basis do a lot of activities, partake in a lot of activities, really not knowing why they're doing it, not understanding the significance of it, but they're doing it. One, there is a herd mentality, which I'm not saying is the case here at all. But when we talk about prayers, when we talk about spirituality and religion, of course, it all comes under the same umbrella. What differs is your perspective and the way you're viewing things, and the way what your mindset is, and also your desires. So which is why I wanted to address this aspect of idol worship. क्योंकि पूजा बहुत लोग करते हैं, हम सब करते हैं, लेकिन उसका significance क्या है, हम क्यों करते हैं, do we even have any understanding? Celebration is great, festivity is great, and one should definitely go ahead and do it. लेकिन आप क्यों कर रहे हैं? आपको पता भी आप किस लिए वो कर रहे हैं? जैसे अगर हम idol worship की भी बात कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि at the end of the day हमने भगवान को देखा तो नहीं है, और कहते हैं निराकार है, it's formless, right? But there is a faith in a higher energy that all of us have, and deities essentially are a manifestation of this higher energy. We can give them different forms, right? So the next thing I want to ask you is that what is the science behind offerings? Because worship hoti hai, there's a lot of offerings, even havans. I was seeing a video of yours as well where you spoke very beautifully about havans and what it entails. But what is the science behind offerings?
So, निराकार है भगवान कहना सही है, पर जब तक हम आकार में हैं तो हमें कोई आकार चाहिए ना.
That is why we have these deities and these
We
forms
have
that
to
we
that.
create.
How do we connect? Otherwise, how do we establish a relationship? Now, abhi pandemic chal raha hai, right? And people have not been able to meet each other for months now. So my son, who's outside, and WhatsApp call with my mom, who's in another part of town. So she started kissing the phone. She was so overwhelmed with love for him. She started kissing the phone.
We need a connect, right? We need a
so do you think
connect.
my son did not feel the love?
Of course.
Right? So she was not there to give him a hug. But her love he felt, right?
Absolutely.
So how could she have kissed in Hawa? She had to kiss the image of my child, no? To express her love. वो हवा में कैसे किस करती, कैसे प्यार जताती अपना. तो ये निराकार भगवान को हम कैसे अपनी डिवोशन दिखाएंगे? हमारी जो भी समझ है उनकी, जिससे हम एस्टैब्लिश करना चाहते हैं रिलेशनशिप, कैसे करेंगे? अभी हम लोग, you and I know each other for many years, but if there was I was recently doing an Insta live with somebody, and I had not met the person before, and I said, can we do a video call so that we can see you, so we can see each other, let's put a face to the names. Right? So even in just regular relationships, it is so important that in order to be able to engage constructively, that there be an understanding of the visually how you look, how does your voice sound, who are you, right? So these things, somebody has the aspiration to be a big, strong human being, okay? Like wants to be a bodybuilder. So will he or she establish a relationship with a deity who's frail and soft? He wants the attributes of energy, of muscle, right? Somebody, on the other hand, wants empowerment. That person wants to be able to go and fight the wars in her own life. Can you imagine the empowerment she feels when she sees Durga? Right? So this iconography is very meaningful. And now it is debatable to say किसी ने देखा नहीं है, क्योंकि हैं लोग जिन्होंने देखा है और उन्होंने उसके बारे में डिस्क्रिप्शंस दिए हैं और उन्होंने उसके बारे में बड़े बड़े स्तोत्र लिखे हैं. हाँ, हम शायद कह सकते हैं कि मैं मानता नहीं. I don't believe. But if you remember when we were in school and when we saw water and we were told in the chemistry class that water exists as solid, liquid and gas, there was disbelief. Water is liquid, how can it exist as solid and gas? So the teacher said, when you go home tomorrow, check the ice in your freezer. Ask your mother how she makes ice. So the mother showed that she poured water into a tray, and when she took it out after a few hours, it became ice. Oh, water can exist as solid, right? Similarly, then they took us to a chemistry lab and they boiled the water in a beaker and through a pipette that collected the condensation in a conical flask, and we knew, oh, water exists as vapor. So the way you know whether they exist or not is you experiment. If you don't want to take somebody else's word for it, you experiment. You find out. You can't, everything in life we are willing to explore, research. We want to buy a dress, you go and try out 10 dresses at Zara and you say, no, this is not flattering my back and this is not flattering my legs and this is too long and this is too short. But when it comes to spirituality and religion, you just dismiss, saying, I don't believe this. And that's the end of it. How can you do that?
No, but no, I'll interrupt you here. And every religion talks about a higher energy and a supreme power. Every religion does. The only differentiation is that every religion or community will see it slightly differently. That's the only difference. Otherwise, everyone talks of the same thing. The values are exactly the same. Do good, don't harm anyone. don't be too attached. You have your desires, go through them, because at the end of the day, you will not be able to take all your material belongings with you. So the teachings are the same. What I meant when I said that was कि जब आप भगवान बोलते हो ना, for someone like me, there is absolutely nothing wrong with idol worship or with having a certain form. But what I meant was that at the end of it, if you really go deep down, deep within, Bhagwan is Bhagwan. I don't necessarily have to see Bhagwan in a certain image. That's all I meant.
So that is for you.
For me,
but there are those who need to.
Absolutely, then there's nothing wrong.
So that's
with
okay. That's fine for them.
Yeah.
So see, most of us, you know, whenever even if you're a practitioner of yoga, right, which you are, so there is a part of bhakti yoga, there is a part of gyan yoga, there is a part of karma yoga, there's a part of hatha yoga. We all have some elements of these in our life. Some may have a greater emotional energy than normal. Some may have a greater intellectual, mental energy than normal. So the one who has a greater emotional energy, that person will be more drawn towards the bhakti mark. And that bhakti mark is about creating a relationship. And when you are in a relationship, good Lord, when you're in love with a man, you carry his picture around. The man carries the picture of his girlfriend in the wallet. Right? They wear lockets with each other's photographs and tattoo करा लेते हैं यार उनके नाम का और उनकी शक्ल का. तो ये तो हम बात कर रहे हैं कि इतनी डीप एनर्जी आ रही है तुम्हारे अंदर, इमोशनल एनर्जी आ रही है, तो उसका क्या करोगे तुम? उसको कहीं पे तो चैनलाइज करोगे ना. तो वो चैनलाइजेशन किसी का म्यूजिक के थ्रू होता है कि वो मीरा ने भक्ति के गीत गा दिए, डांस कर दी स्ट्रीट्स पे, राइट? किसी का वो अपने आइडल को, लड्डू गोपाल पे जिनको प्यार आता है, वो उसके लिए मक्खन रोज निकालते हैं, उसको स्नान कराते हैं. और जब इस तरह से एक लड्डू गोपाल को आप रोज प्यार करते हो, यू बीन पोरिंग दैट नर्चरिंग एनर्जी एज अ मदर इनटू एन आइडल, वुड नॉट योर कैपेसिटी टू लव ऑल चिल्ड्रन एक्सपैंड इन द प्रोसेस? विल दैट नॉट मेक यू अ बेटर ह्यूमन बीइंग? So it works, no? So it works, no?
It works. But I'm not debating that it doesn't work. I never said that at any point in time.
So what is the question then?
My question to you was that what is the science behind offerings? That is
this is the science, this neuro-linguistic programming, that when you establish a relationship with something through the iconography, through these things, your entire approach towards the subject changes. You get more established in that sense of peace, in that sense of responsibility, in that sense of affection, and it gets more and more expansive. आप जाके देवी माँ के नंगे पांव जाके ऊपर वैष्णो देवी पे दर्शन करोगे, उसके बाद आप कंजकों को खाना खिलाओगे, उसके बाद क्या आप छोटी बच्चियों के साथ कुछ गलत करने के बारे में सोच भी पाओगे?
Not at all.
बस hasn't it served the purpose? Hasn't it served the purpose? Absolutely. It served the purpose, no? Yeah. So, and especially we had this session on Krishna the other day. So when you are indulgent of Krishna and his coming and lying to the mother, will you not become indulgent of your own child? Will you say झूठ बोलना, you know, morally हाँ झूठ बोलना गलत बात होती है, पर आप जिस डेटी को मानते हैं उसने तो शैतानी की, उसने तो झूठ बोला, आप उसको माफ कर सकते हो, आप अपने बच्चों को नहीं माफ करोगे? Right? So it serves a huge purpose, boss. And सबसे बड़ी बात है, हम बात कर रहे हैं निराकार भगवान को पाने की, right? अगर हमें कण कण में भगवान नहीं दिख पाए तो फिर उसको क्या पाएंगे हम? It's not possible. तो कण कण में भक्ति भाव, इवेंचुअली तो आपने जो निराकार है, दैट इज सेइंग कि सब कुछ ब्रह्म है, राइट? सब कुछ भगवान ही है. तो वो भगवान वाली फीलिंग आपके अंदर एक अगर पत्थर की मूर्ति में आने लग गई तो फिर तो बाकियों में एक्सपेंसिव होके आती जाएगी. अगर सही से उस समझ के साथ करोगे, वो उस आप जाके लोगों की गर्दन काटने लग जाओगे तो प्रॉब्लम है.
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Annu.
I think I had a call and it kind of interrupted. Can you hear me now?
I can hear.
But I can't hear you properly now. Your volume level has gone down for me.
Okay, am I
I'm
audible
sorry,
now?
I couldn't have prevented this because the Wi-Fi is on, the calls come
No
sometimes.
problem. So can you hear me now?
I can't hear you. I don't know what to do about that. Today seems to be my day of dealing with technical issues. My previous session, something else had gone wrong. And before that, everybody was complimenting me on how tech savvy I am, because I was like basking in that, oh yes, I'm very tech savvy. Lag gayi meri tech savviness ki yahan pe is waqt.
This does seem to happen sometimes.
Okay, so how does one handle this? Because I can barely hear you and I don't know how to get your audio levels up.
If you can just increase
I
the
have no
volume on
clue
your
what to do
phone.
in such a situation. Maybe somebody could message the question to me and I can see the question and answer. Why don't you, I think the Swami Dhyan Suman has been writing. Why don't you say the question and he can type it for me and I will see it and I will answer. Let's find
I
Jugaad.
think there was, Acha, you can't hear me. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Actually, why don't I see if there's any other question that I needed to answer?
Yes.
All Shastras say knowledge comes with experiences, meditation and tapasya. Rest all is information for discussion. How do you respond? So Swami Dhyan Sumanji, discussion is also important, no? Because जो राजसिक एनर्जी है हमारी, वो अगर हम इस तरह के डिस्कशन में लगाएंगे, तो that will become more meaningful, right? Otherwise, the entire thing is about balancing of the gunas, right? Our entire effort through sadhana is to find that balance where we can start getting more and more subtle. And उसमें जो राजसिक एनर्जी को हमने अगर इन discussions में हम लगाएंगे, it's keeping us away from discussions of a lot of other things which will probably bring our energy down, which will probably take us towards more tamas. So this is a better idea. These discussions are a better idea than, so there's nothing wrong with these discussions. So that is my answer to you. I don't know if it satisfies you, but okay, let me see if there's any other question. Ma'am, might it be the reason that we use coconut? What might be the reason that we use coconut as representation of Lord Ganesha during Hindu puja? So not just coconut, we also use laddu. We use karte hain kai baar. So this is basically symbolism का मतलब ही है. देखिए, nowadays we've started finding such delicately made statues and with so much detailing and stuff. If you remember, there used to be a time, if you see the ancient temples, वो एक पिंडी होती है, उसमें दो आंखें लगी होती हैं, and that is signifying the deity. Right? So depending on the circumstances that you have, you can accord the जो मान आप दे रहे हो. आजकल देखो, you remember there was this huge issue about the visarjan of statues and stuff in the rivers because of the pollution it was causing. So everybody has responded to it. No, now we have eco-friendly Ganeshas which have seeds inside them, and those. So the beauty of Sanatan Dharma is it's Sanatan. It is continuous, which means it is constantly adapting and it is developing to respond to the ecosystem as it is changing. So at some point of time, the coconut would have developed as one of those options, and it continues to become. I mean, we in our lifetime have seen how the ritual of cake cutting has become a part of our life. When our parents were young, and when we were also young, I mean, not you, Nikita, you're much younger, but when we were younger, those who don't know the background about our discussion on age will find this very strange, saying, what are they talking? What are they laughing about? So there was a time when birthday meant that घर में हलवा पूरी बना है और मंदिर गए हैं, and then the cakes made an entry into our lives. And now the younger children can't imagine a birthday without a cake. It's become such an important aspect of their lives. And it's like, तेरे birthday पे cake नहीं है? How terrible is that? That is how it has become now. So we've seen a ritual develop right in front of us. And thankfully, because of the pandemic, I'm hoping that people will stop blowing candles now, because I used to find it very disturbing. Somebody's blowing and I'm expected to eat a slice of that. So, so one can develop a new ritual there. Light a tea light. Bring light into the world on your birthday. So why do you have to blow a candle out? Light a tea light. So somebody said, Auntie, the idea of blowing a candle was that the smoke carries your wish with it. So I said, there is अगरबत्ती लगा के उसकी स्मोक में विश को भेज दो भैया, फ्रेग्रेंट विश भेज दो, और भी ज्यादा जल्दी पहुंचेगी ऊपर. Right? So the beauty of Sanatan Dharma is it allows you to find these resolutions to whatever you may be going through, and that resolution calms us down.
Can you hear me now, Annu?
No, I don't know what to do about that.
Okay, but I'm still going to talk.
Okay, I can hear you a little bit now. I'll strain, come closer and listen. I don't think there are any more questions, right?
No more questions, but I just want to sum up and give my 2 cents with this, and that is that, you know, for someone who has a spiritual bent of mind, I really want that.
I'm holding the phone close to my ear to listen to you. Should I come back? Should I go out and come back? Would that work better?
No, I don't think so. If you can just increase the volume, I think that you'll be okay. No?
Please answer that. Now answer what? I don't know the question. Okay, Mumbai, we do Satyanarayan Bhagwan's Satna before his Visarjan. Could you throw some light on this?
Okay, now you've done something to your phone, and
we need to understand the concept of Visarjan.
We have about 3 minutes, and then this discussion will automatically end. So I don't think we have time to answer that particular question.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do about it now.
No problem. I think we'll just end it. Like I was saying, I'll just give my 2 cents. I love the way you think, Annu. I love your mindset. I love the way you think, and also the fact that you so beautifully apply your knowledge, your insights with regard to Sanatan Dharma, and you so beautifully and graciously extend it to everyone. What I really want is, and I really hope that, of course, all of us have desires, and there's no harm in having desires. I hope all our desires get full, but at the end of it, I really hope that we get the required experiences, which helps us to understand really what the purpose of life is. I think.
So I have had this discussion with some people about the purpose of life, and honestly, apparently, even some of the enlightened people I have met have said that it is very difficult to explain the purpose of life from a mental point of view.
No, but which is why you experience. I believe in experience.
So my experience, honestly, I think this entire, thing about selfish and independent is kind of misconstrued, because I don't think anybody is independent. We're all interdependent, and if anything else, this pandemic has shown us more than ever before how interdependent we are. And this thing of selfish, end of the day, life itself is sustained because there is this desire for survival, which means there is a selfishness, intrinsic selfishness to it. And I think what my understanding has been that expansion of self to include more and more people is what is
required.
The agenda that I find myself. It's about, once you realize that we're all the same, then in day-to-day life, we are trying to build bridges instead of build walls. Because if we are all one, then and if as a spiritual practitioner, that is what I'm trying to realize, the oneness with whether you call it God or the self or Brahm or whatever. The point is, if we are all one, then how can it become my lived experience? And if this is the lived experience I want to feel that oneness, then even though I may not feel the oneness all the time, how can I keep doing tasks which separate me